Hi everybody. In this video we are going to discuss about the contrivances to ensure cross pollination. Contrivances to ensure cross pollination, which is otherwise also called as outbreeding devices. Outbreeding devices. This is from the chapter reproduction in flowering plants. Reproduction in flowering plants. So we know that majority of the flower bearing plants, they are hermaphrodites. They are hermaphrodites, we call them as. So you know what is an hermaphrodite? An organism which is having both the sex organs, we say male sex organ and the female sex organ. So here we are using the word hermaphrodite, which means if you are taking a flower, and it will be having, most of the flowers will be having both the male part and as well as the female part. So you already studied that the male part of the flower is what? The stamen. So stamen here is the male part of the flower, male part of the flower, and whereas the pistil, pistil is the female part of the flower, So here, when a flower consists of both these sex organs, that is stamen, the male part, and the pistil, the female part, we are calling it as what? Hermaphrodite. Otherwise, the common word that we use is what? It is a bisexual flower. Here, in outbreeding devices, what we are going to understand is that the flowers which are having both the stamen and the pistil do not show much preference, or they will not give much preference for undergoing self-pollination. They will not show much interest, or they will not prefer for undergoing self-pollination. They will be adapting certain characteristics only to promote what? Cross-pollination. So that we are going to study it as what? Outbreeding devices. So all the flowers which are bisexual, they may not be going for most of the times self-pollination. They will be preferring what? Cross-pollination. So what are the adaptations the flowers will be showing in order to show cross-pollination? We are going to discuss in this. Just imagine if we see the flowers, if they are undergoing continuous self-pollination, it may lead to one particular point, that is situation called as inbreeding depression. So what is this inbreeding depression? We are going to discuss now. What is this inbreeding depression? What do you mean by inbreeding depression now? It is the inability of an organism to reproduce, because it reduces its fertility. It is inability of an organism to reproduce is called as what? Inbreeding depression, which leads to decrease in the productivity and also the fertilization. So what we have to remember now, what is inbreeding depression means? It is the inability of an organism to reproduce. Because what happened? It reduces in its fertility. So that's what is the point that you have to keep in mind about the inbreeding depression. So because if they are undergoing continuously self-pollination, they lose the capacity to produce the young ones. That is what is the actual meaning. They lose the capacity to produce the young ones. That in simple we are calling it as what? Inbreeding depression. So because to overcome this inbreeding depression, what the plants will be doing, or what are the adaptations the flowers will be showing, we are going to discuss under outbreeding devices. So what is the first outbreeding device? Means what do you mean by outbreeding devices? The plants or the bisexual flower is showing some adaptations. The flowers are showing some adaptations to overcome self-pollination and prefer what? Cross-pollination. They will be going for cross-pollination, not self-pollination. So that's why in the previous video we said that self-pollination is rare. Where the flowers will be going for cross-pollination. So here the first outbreeding device is dichogamy. So what do you mean by this dichogamy? Dichogamy means we said that there is an anther. Anther. That is, otherwise we are calling it as the stamen, and the pistil, otherwise the part of the pistil is what? The stigma. Anther and the stigma. These two, which are present in a bisexual flower, will not mature at the same time. They will not mature at the same time. So, if they are not mature at the same time, what we call it as, what is not possible? It is not possible for self-pollination, because anther will be maturing at one particular period of time, and after which the stigma may be maturing. So both are not maturing at the same time. If both are maturing at the same time, then it is possible for self-pollination. So here what is happening? Anther matures at one particular time and stigma little later on it matures. By then the anther may dehiscences, means ruptures and releases the pollen grains, where there will be no pollen grains to fall on the stigma of that flower. So that's what we have to remember when we talk about what dichogamy. Dichogamy means anther matures at one time and then stigma matures at the other time, which is due to which what is not possible? Self-pollination is not possible. So in very simple sense, we can say that self-pollination is not possible in some plants or in some flowers, because anther will mature at one point of time and then the stigma will be maturing. So there are two terms that we have to keep in mind here. There is one word when we talk about dichogamy, two words that are there which we have to keep in mind. One is protandry. One is called as protandry. So what do you mean by protandry? You will use this word protandry for when the anther matures. When anther matures, we use the word called as the protandry. Anther matures before what? Stigma. Anther matures before stigma. So then we call it as what? Protandry. We call it as protandry. And there are few examples, okay? We will just highlight few examples, like it happens in sunflower. It happens in sunflower. It happens in sunflower, and it is also seen in cotton and also salvia. In salvia. In these plants which we highlighted as examples, we will be seeing that anther will be maturing first. Anther will be maturing first, then the stigma. So this is, when the anther is maturing, we are calling it as what? Protandry. There is another word called as protogeny. There is another word called as protogeny. So it just opposite to this protandry. What is protogeny? Protogeny means what? Now stigma matures first. Stigma matures. Stigma matures before anther. They are just opposite to each other. Okay? Before anther we are saying. So here we have to remember, stigma is maturing means what is the word we are using? Protogeny. Protogeny. Here also we can keep some examples, like there are some examples, like very common one is mirabilis. Okay? Mirabilis. And there is another one called as gloriosa. Gloriosa. This is another example, gloriosa. Okay, so here we have to remember, dichogamy is one adaptation that is shown by the hermaphrodite flowers. Hermaphrodite flowers means what? Bisexual flowers. Why they are showing this adaptation? In order to overcome self-pollination. So in dichogamy, what we have to remember, the key point is that anther and stigma do not mature at the same time. If they are maturing at the same time, then what happens? Compulsorily there are chances for self-pollination. So in order to avoid self-pollination, what they are showing here, there are two conditions we are calling it as protandry and protogeny. Protandry means what? Anther matures before stigma. And some examples as we have highlighted here are sunflower, cotton and salvia. Then what is protogeny? Here stigma matures. Okay, stigma matures before anther. Some of the examples are mirabilis and gloriosa. So here we have to remember that this is a type of adaptation that is shown by the plants in order to go for cross-pollination. In order to go for cross-pollination and to discourage self-pollination. To discourage self-pollination. So the next one we are going to see is heterostyling. This is another adaptation that is shown in the hermaphrodite flowers. Means what? Bisexual flowers. Heterostyling. Heterostyling means what? Here the length, okay, the length of the style and stamen will be showing some differences. Is different, we can say, is different. Which means what? They are not of the same size. They are not of the same size. So here, because of this, heterostyle means what? The length of the style and stamen is different. They are not of the same size. Because of this, it is not possible for them to go for self-pollination. So the only chance is that they have to go for what? Cross-pollination. So in this, we have to remember two words. We have to remember two words. So suppose if you are taking it in some plants, okay, in some flowers, here there will be a long, okay, there will be a long the style, okay, the style will be very long, whereas the anthers that are there will be of very short. The anthers which are there are of very short in a flower. So here if you are seeing, here what you are seeing, what it is very clearly showing that the style is very long, whereas the stamens are very short. So this type of arrangement is called as pin. This type of arrangement is called as pin, we call it as. This type of arrangement is called as pin. So here it is very clearly understood now with the diagram. If you are seeing that it is not possible for the pollen grains to be carried on to the stigma. Why? Because the style is very long. The style is very long. So that's why it is not possible for the pollen grains that are released from this anther to fall on the stigma. So this type of arrangement is called as what? Pin. And this is one example that you have to remember under the heterostyle. There is another one where the stigma will be short. The stigma will be short, and whereas the anther will be away from the stigma. The anther will be away from the stigma. See here, they are entirely moving very far, or almost they are out of the petals also. They are out of the petals also. So when they are out of the petals also, now there is no chance of what? The pollen grains to fall on this stigma. Why? Because the stamen is very long now. The stamen is very long. So when the stamen is very long, the anther and the stigma is very short, where the distance is very far between these two, there are less chances of what? Self-pollination to occur. So this type of arrangement is called as thrum, we call it as. This type of arrangement is called as thrum. And the best examples of this, okay, the best examples of this which we can keep in mind is oxalis and also primula. Okay, oxalis and primula, etc. We can keep these examples in our mind, where they are showing one adaptation called as what? Heterostyling. Heterostyling means what? The length of the style and the stamen is different. So here if you are seeing, the length of the style and the stamen is different. Here also if you are observing in this one, the length of the style and the stamen is different. So as we have mentioned, if the style is long, we are saying it as pin. If the stamen is long, we are calling it as thrum. Best examples are what? Oxalis and primula. This is one adaptation again to discourage what? Self-pollination, and to encourage what? Cross-pollination. So this is one adaptation naturally the plants will be showing to promote cross-pollination. So here the next one, the third one is self-incompatibility. Self-incompatibility. So what do you mean by self-incompatibility? When you are taking the pollen grains, okay, when you are taking the pollen grains that are falling on the stigma, here, right from here, what should happen? The pollen grain should germinate and it should reach the ovule that is present inside the ovary. This is the ovule and this is the ovule and this is the ovary. So we know that once the pollen grain falls here, it should produce the pollen tube carrying the male gametes and reaches the ovule to fertilize the egg that is present in the ovule. But here we are talking about self-incompatibility. Self-incompatibility means the pollen grain fails to germinate. The pollen grain fails to germinate when it falls on the same flower or the two flowers born on the same plant. What do you mean by that? It will not promote, okay, there are now the pollen grains. It is not possible now for the pollen grains, even if they are falling here, they cannot germinate. Self-incompatibility means fails to germinate. Pollen grains, okay, fails to germinate. Pollen grains fails to germinate. on the stigma of the same flower, on the stigma of the same flower, or even of the flower which is born on the same plant, or another flower born on the same plant. Which means what? In simple, we can say that now the pollen grains will be failed to germinating even if they are falling on the stigma of the same flower or another flower stigma of the same plant, of another flower that is there on that same plant. There also it cannot germinate. There also it cannot germinate. And this process is it is a genetic mechanism. It is a genetic mechanism. It is a genetic mechanism which is taking place based upon the genetics, based upon the genes that are present. This process will be taking place. So self-incompatibility is another adaptation the flowers or the plants are showing, so that to discourage what? Not to go for self-pollination, but only to promote what? Cross-pollination. Only to promote cross-pollination here. So here it is very clear now that the pollen grains will not germinate. Pollen grains will not germinate. So what are the best examples that you have to keep in mind here? The best examples are potato. Okay, in the potato we can see this type of situation where self-incompatibility will be exhibited, and also in tobacco, potato, tobacco, sunflower and mustard, sunflower and mustard. In all these are few examples that we are quoting for self-incompatibility. So self-incompatibility means the pollen grains that falls on the stigma fails to germinate. The pollen grains that falls on the stigma fails to germinate within the same flower or between two flowers of the same plant. Within the same flower or between the two flowers of the same plant. They will not encourage what? The germination of the pollen grains to reach to the ovule. This is called as self-incompatibility. Self-incompatibility. So the next one we are going to discuss is diclining. Otherwise it is called as unisexuality. Unisexuality. In this we have to remember that the stamen and the carpels means what? Male part and female part. These two male parts may be present on two different flowers. They are present on two different flowers. And if so, we will be using these two words, like one we call it as, which you already know, called as pistillate, and another one is called as staminate. Pistillate and staminate. What do you mean by pistillate and staminate? Pistillate means which is bearing only the female part. Staminate means which is bearing only the male part. Pistillate and staminate. So the same thing we are using here. When a flower, when the flowers are having the sex organs born on two different flowers, it is called now the diclining, unisexuality. So here we are seeing flowers which are having the stamen and the carpels. Stamen is the male part, carpel is the female part. Stamen is the male part, carpel is the female part. These two parts of the flower, which are called as the sex organs, are present on two different flowers. But here the two flowers may be born on the same plant. So in this diagram A, if you are seeing the two flowers, this flower is the female flower and this flower is the male flower. Female flower means what? It is having the carpel. We say. Otherwise in simple we call it as pistillate flower. This is staminate flower. So here the male flower is present in one flower and the female part is present in the other flower. So otherwise we can say carpel and the stamens are present. Carpel and the stamens are present in two different flowers. Carpel and stamens are present in two different flowers. Here also we are seeing the same thing. Here in the diagram B, we are seeing that here the carpel is present in this flower, and here if you are seeing in diagram C, the stamen is present in this flower. This flower is not showing what? The carpel. This flower is not showing the stamen. So here we have to keep in mind that carpel and stamens are present in two different flowers. Carpel and stamens are present in two different flowers. But one point we have to keep in mind. Is that Even though they are present, carpel and stamens are present on two different flowers, the two flowers may be born on the same plant. Here, if you see, this is of the same plant. Okay, this is of the same plant. The two flowers, flower which is bearing the female part, carpel, the flower which is bearing the male part, that is the stamen, they both are present on the same plant. Here what we are seeing, the flower which is having only the female part, that is what? The carpel. That is the carpel. Here it is that plant will be having only the flowers which are having the carpel. And here we are seeing that the flower which is having only the stamen are present on another plant. So keeping that information in mind, now we can say that they are bisexual and unisexual flowers. Bisexual and unisexual flowers. So bisexual means what? Both the flowers. What are those flowers? The carpel bearing flower, that is female part, and the stamen, that is male flower or male part present in the flower. Both the flowers, when they are present on the same plant, we call those two flowers as what? Bisexual flowers only. So we already studied that bisexual flower means what? A flower which is having both the sex organs. This is also right. A flower which is having both the sex organs. That is what? Male sex organ, that is the stamen, and the female sex organ, pistil or carpel. Both are there here. This is also a bisexual flower. At the same time, here what we are saying, if there are two flowers, one flower having only the female part, another flower having only the male part, but both the flowers are born on the same plant. The two flowers are there on the same plant. Then that we call it as what? Bisexual. And we are using another word. What is that word? Monoecious. Because both the flowers, male flower and female flower, are born on the same plant. So we are using the monoecious. Okay, bisexual or monoecious. The best examples which will show this type of adaptation are, you can see very clearly, the castor, maize and cucumber. These are the best examples. If you are seeing in these two, B and C, where the male flower is present on another plant, and female flower is present on another plant. This type of adaptation is shown in some plants, and such plants are called as what? Or such flowers are called as what? Such flowers are called as unisexual flowers. Otherwise we call them as dioecious. Okay, monoecious and dioecious. So what are the best examples for unisexual flowers exhibiting like this? Very common one is you come across is papaya. Okay, male plant, female plant. The male plant will be having only the male flowers. That is, the flowers will be consisting of only stamens. The female plant will be having only the female flowers. That is, it will be having only the carpels, or we call them as pistil. Okay, carpel. So pistillate and staminate, we call them as pistillate and staminate. Another example for unisexual is cannabis. So here, because of this unisexuality, this adaptation is only to promote what again? Cross-pollination. This adaptation is shown in the flowers of different plants only to discourage, not to go for what? Self-pollination, but what? Cross-pollination. They will be preferring only the cross-pollination. So this is another adaptation that we have to keep in mind. Why the plants will be called as dicliny or unisexuality. It is only for what purpose? To promote what? Cross-pollination. To discourage what? Self-pollination. This is about the dicliny or unisexuality. So the next one is prepotency. If you are looking at the prepotency, this is another adaptation that is shown by the hermaphrodite flowers, means bisexual flowers, where they will prefer cross-pollination than self-pollination. So what do you mean by prepotency now? Prepotency means if you are taking a flower, it will show the pollen grains of another flower to germinate more rapidly. the pollen grains of another flower. This is one flower and this is another flower. Here are the pollen grains. What are these? These are the pollen grains. So the pollen grains of another flower, pollen grains of another flower, when they fall on the stigma of this flower, it starts germinating faster. It starts germinating faster. Pollen grains of another flower germinates more rapidly than the pollen grains of this same flower. If you are looking at here, this is the anther of the same flower. Anther is producing the pollen grains. But these pollen grains, when they fall on the stigma of the same flower, when the pollen grains of the same flower fall on the stigma, they will not germinate rapidly. They will not germinate rapidly. So let us say the pollen grains that are collected from another flower, let us try to understand and label it as A. This is a pollen grain coming from another flower. This is a pollen grain B coming from the same flower. So which one will germinate more faster? It is the pollen grain A, because it is coming from another flower. So the pollen grains of another flower, when they fall on the stigma, germinate more rapidly than the pollen grains of the same flower. One point you have to keep in mind here is that, suppose, keep this point in your mind, suppose if there is no chance of the pollen grains of another flower to fall on the stigma of this flower, then how the pollination will be taking place? During which time, then this flower will prefer self-pollination. When it will prefer self-pollination? When the pollen grains of another flower are not falling at all. Maybe because of various factors. The pollen grains of another flower may not be coming and falling on this particular stigma. So what happens then? The pollen grains of the same flower will start germinating. But otherwise, it will always prefer the pollen grains of another flower to fall on it and start germinating and to reach what? The ovule that is present. That is called as what? Prepotency. And best examples in which the prepotency is observed is pear and apple. Pear and apple will be exhibiting prepotency, so that they can go for what? Cross pollination. And if cross pollination is not possible, means what? What we said, that the pollen grains of another flower are not at all falling. If these are not there, then the pollen grains of the same flower will be germinating. If the pollen grains of another flower are not there falling, then the flower will let the pollen grains to germinate. Okay, so that is about what? The prepotency. So here we are going to discuss the next one as hercogamy. Herco means barrier. The word herco means barrier. Hercogamy. It is otherwise commonly known as mechanical or structural barrier. There is a mechanical or structural barrier. What do you mean by this hercogamy now? Any one of the floral parts which act as the barriers between what? Between the male part and the female part. So the male part and female part may not be very close to each other, or otherwise they are being blocked by some other floral parts. Then in such case we are calling it as hercogamy. So when any floral part is blocking the male part from the female part, we are calling it as hercogamy. The best examples are pansy flower, iris, calotropis and salvia. Pansy flower, iris, calotropis and salvia are best examples where they will show any floral part may be as a barrier. Barrier means they will be blocking. They will not allow the male part to be in close contact with the female part, where it will be undergoing self-pollination. Due to which what happens? Compulsorily they have to go for cross-pollination only. So suppose we are taking the example of here a salvia. It is a flower. Here if you are seeing this flower, the corolla. Okay, the corolla means petals are like two lips. Okay, two lips like. Okay, lip like corolla. So here, if you are seeing the diagram very clearly, this part that is coming out is the stigma, which is what? The female part. And just after that, you are seeing the male part. That is what? The anther. But anther is having two parts. One is the fertile part. One part of the anther will be fertile, and the other part is the sterile part of the flower. Here if you are seeing, anther is far away from what? The stigma. Anther is far away from the stigma. Now the chances of self-pollination is very less. So the only thing is like they have to go for cross-pollination. Now when an insect, the common insect that is involved in cross-pollination is what? Bees. So let us take the example of bees. So when a bee visits and enters into this corolla, it will be pushing this particular part of the anther, that is what? Sterile. Sterile part will be pushed. So when the insect is here, okay, when the insect is here, its body will be coming in contact with what? The fertile part of the anther. It's just like a liver which will be working out. When the insect comes and touches here, the fertile part of the anther will be bending. And when the fertile part of the anther is bending, this part will come and touch to its body, where the pollen grains will be coated on the body of that insect. The pollen grains will be coated on the body of the insect. In this way, it will be promoting what? Cross-pollination in the salvia. It will be promoting cross-pollination in the salvia. Same thing even in the case of calotropis. If you are taking the calotropis, the pollen grains are held together as mass. In calotropis, the pollen grains are held together as mass. So when the pollen grains are held together as mass, so suppose here is one mass and here is another mass. All these are what? The pollen grains. All these are the pollen grains, just like a sac that is there, just like a sac or a balloon, they are there present. So these pollen grains, when they are held together as mass, we use the word called as pollinia or pollinium. Okay, we use the word called as pollinia. So this is a sac called as what now? Pollinium. Pollinium. So here it is consisting of what? Pollen grains. Okay, this is this type of pollinium or pollen grains held together as mass is observed in calotropis. Calotropis. So what happens here is that it compulsorily requires what? An agent to carry these pollen grains from the male part to the female part, means to the stigma, because they are not in close association. Compulsorily it requires the insects. Compulsorily it requires the insects. So here when these pollinium falls on the stigma, falls on the stigma of a flower, the female part of the same plant, of the same flower, there are less chances of pollination. Why? It will take time to rupture of the pollen sac, that is the pollinium. What we said, pollinium means what? Or pollinium means what? A group of pollen grains held together as mass is called as the pollinia. Otherwise we are calling it as here pollinium. So there are less chances of self-pollination. Why there are less chances of self-pollination? When the pollen grains of the same anther are falling on the stigma of the same flower, the rupturing of the sac may take time. But here what happens now? Such of these pollinium will be easily carried by the insects to other flowers, during which the pollen grains may rupture. The pollinium may rupture and release the pollen grains, which will promote what? Cross-pollination. This is another example that we have to keep in mind regarding the calotropis. So hercogamy means what? Floral parts will be as barriers. They will be acting as barriers here. Acting as barriers. So that's why they will go for cross-pollination. So the next one is the suppression of one sex in bisexual flowers. There is another one to adapt to cross-pollination. What happens is suppression of one sex in bisexual flowers. What do you mean by this? Either any of the sex organ, either the female sex organ or the male sex organ will be suppressed, means completely becomes inactive. So suppose if in this flower, if the female part, that is the pistil, if it is becoming inactive, which means that there is only chances of what? The anther which is very active. And maybe in the another flower where you will be seeing that the anther becomes inactive. Anther becomes inactive. This will not be working, or it will not produce. That we are calling as what? Suppression of one sex. Any one sex. Either the male, here what we are seeing, the female sex is being suppressed. Female part. Okay, female is being suppressed here. Okay, what happened here? The male is being suppressed here. So even the some flowers will be showing this characteristic also, suppression of one sex in bisexual flowers in order to promote what? Cross pollination. In order to promote cross pollination. So here in this video, under the outbreeding devices, we have completed dichogamy, heterostyle, self-sterility and dicliny, which is also called as what? Unisexuality, which is also called as unisexuality. Where we in unisexuality, this is very important one. In unisexuality, we are seeing, we have studied that there will be bisexual flowers and unisexual flowers. And please remember, when we quoted about the bisexual flowers under dicliny, bisexual flowers under dicliny, here it prevents autogamy. It prevents autogamy, but not deuteronogamy, This is very important point that we have to keep in mind, where it will be like a reasoning out question. So you have to remember, what is that? In dicliny, which is called as unisexuality, when we are talking about bisexual flowers, which the flowers which are born on the same plant, having the carpel and also the stamen. In such flowers, what is prevented? Autogamy is prevented, but not deuteronogamy. Autogamy is prevented, but not deuteronogamy. So in the same way, when we go for unisexual flowers under dicliny, when you are going for unisexual flowers under dicliny, in unisexual flowers, what we have to remember? The male flower is born on different plant and the female flower is born on different plant. In this case, here we have to remember another one. So here we have to remember another one. That is, in unisexual flowers, both autogamy and deuteronogamy, deuteronogamy are prevented. Okay, in this case, both autogamy and deuteronogamy are prevented. Both will not take place. It prevents. Then how the pollination will be taking place? Compulsorily, it should be only through what? The cross pollination. It is compulsorily through cross pollination only. Okay, it is compulsorily through cross pollination only. That we call it as what? Another word is, we call it as what? Xenogamy. This is also an important point you have to keep in mind, where we will get confused when we are discussing about dicliny, unisexuality. Thank you so much. Please remember all this.